All right, so let's go ahead and start with our Latin America history review. Go ahead and make sure you get your composition notebook out or any of your study material. This is going to be fast paced, but I think you will get it. It's not that bad. With that being said, let's go ahead and start with Columbian Exchange. So, the Columbian Exchange was, of course, named after Christopher Columbus and it was the exchange of plants, animal, disease, and ideas and technology between Europe's and the Americas. All right, now, the most important thing you need to know here is the fact that it was a trade between the Old World and the New World. Ignore the typo. And of course, the importance when it came to this change of an old world to new world, it was the fact that Europeans, when they went to Americas, they introduced to new disease that Latin America never even heard of or introduced to. You know, the expert even says that 80% of the North American population fell. They had things like smallpoxes, influenza. We even talk about some plagues and stuff like that. And of course, because most of the American dies, they had to bring another slaves from another location that's going to work in the plantation. So most people in the region actually speak Spanish and Portuguese in America because a lot of the people of Europe, so specifically the Spaniard and the Portuguese, were the one that explored to the Americas and exploited the people in Americas there. So a lot of people in Latin America, the reason why they speak Spanish and Portuguese is because the main colonizers were the Spaniard and the Portuguese. Of course, many people in Latin America share an African ancestor. That's because of the fact that, this, that's because of the fact that a lot after the Colombian exchange triangle trade, they had to bring the African slaves to America to work on the sugarcane plantation. That's why a lot of the Latin America share an African ancestor. We even talked about Brazil. A lot of the people in Brazil share the same ancestry with Africans. And also the religion. Many people in Latin America practice Christianity and Catholic, which was the main religion at that time in Europe. So that's the effect of exchange. And this is a little, table that you can write down or look at, things like Old World. They were trading apple, banana, grape, broccoli. I told y'all to think more like the European food, grape is wine, and the old world, all those exotic food like pineapple, papaya, you got chili pepper, maize, the corn, all of these stuff from Americas. They were trading with each other. And of course, the most important animal is what? Horses. Make sure you understand Europe brought horses to Americas and Africa. So let's look at the triangle trade. I kept this short, simple. The cause of triangle trade was because many Native Americans died due to Columbian exchange, and they needed to replace the Native Americans that were working in the sugarcane plantation with a new people. So they went to Africa. They brought them guns, alcohol, and horses to Africa, and they got those enslaved people, took them into America so that these Africans can work in a sugarcane plantation in Americas. And of course, then the Europeans would take the finished product that these African enslaved people worked on and bring it straight to Europe, making that triangle trade. You see the triangle right here? Yes, triangle trade. Now we're going to move. Now we're actually going to move on Cuban Revolution. So Cuban Revolution, of course, they gained their independence from Spain in Spanish American War. The US initially controlled Cuba for a few years. So US and Cuba had a little bit of connection then because of the connection, a lot of the Americans were buying Cuban companies, buying Cuban land. So a lot of the things in Cuba was actually owned by Americans. So I want to talk about the leadership. Batista was originally elected as a president, but made himself a dictator as Cuba, right? So Cuba later changed their leader to Fidel Castro, another dictator. So Cuba actually changed from a dictator to another dictator. But let's go deeper into why this change happened. Again, Cuba changed from a dictator to a dictator. Let's see. So a lot of the Cubans were unhappy with Batista. The government was corrupt, people were poor, education was poor, there was no health care. And it's similar as Russian Revolution, right? People are poor, they can't get education, and when they're sick, they can't get it to, go visit a doctor. People will go crazy. They will start blaming government. They will start saying, why or is our country like this? So that's where Fidel Castro came in place. Fidel Castro, a young lawyer, revolutionary, everybody was looking at this man like, wow, he might be able to bring the change. So Fidel Castro actually, with the help of Soviet Union, made Cuba into a communist country. So he told people that by following me, by following the government, we can reach that utopia once again. So let's see. So military personnel and personnel and government worker who were loyal to Batista were exiled, jailed, and executed. And that is so that you don't have opposition. If you have opposition, people are going to challenge you. But if you don't have opposition, Fidel Castro can do whatever they want. So Castro, because of this, right now, in the beginning, he pushed the reforms such as like public education, he improved healthcare, he even improved rights for women and equality for black Cubanos. But we're going to see where things hit the fan. So US and Soviet Union were involved in Cold War, right? So US and Soviet Union did not like each other. And now that Cuba started flirting with Soviet Union, US is looking at it like, I don't know about the relationship that you two have. And not only that, US started looking at Cuba very closely, and they ended up looking at the secret Soviet Union missile bases. So they understood that Cuba had a missile aiming at USA that can basically hurt United States citizens. President John F. Kennedy told a United States citizen that Soviet placed a missile and that we need to be ready. So of course everyone in US was very scared and they were like, is this gonna be another war going on? Because this was right after World War II. So after a lot of talks, President Kennedy agreed to not take over Cuba and remove the US missile from Turkey, which obviously was aiming at Soviet Union, Russia. In return, Khrushchev agreed to remove the missile from Cuba. Basically, win-win. I remove missile that's aiming at you. You remove missile aiming at me. This was very tense. Just like how we were talking about Cold War, it was very, very tense. We didn't know who was going to start the war. But luckily, this resolved peacefully. Now we're going to talk about the poverty in Latin America, our last topic. Oh, no, before that, of course, we got to talk about embargo. So United States, after that, we did not just stop saying, Cuba, you're good. No. What happened is because of all this event, United States decided, let's just not trade with Cuba. Let's stay away. I even somebody in second period, we even had a good discussion saying that this is like a breakup after Cuba and US finally broke up after that little crazy ex story. We decided let's not see each other anymore. Like I don't even want to trade with you. I don't want to do nothing with you. They decided to place an embargo, which is ban on trade. And today, of course, Raul Castro became the Cuban president. Also, he is a dictator. But US and Cuba started following each other again. 2014 decided to say, we dated a long time ago. We had bad things going on back then, but it's okay. I think we can talk as a friend now. So in 2016, Barack Obama became the first US president to visit Cuba in 88 years, and they basically resumed the relation and they're slowly opening the trade. Now let's talk about poverty in Latin America. So, when it came to poverty, poverty is when you're extremely poor, not have enough money to meet basic need, right? So, unfortunately, Latin America struggled with this for a long time. So, it's a long, ongoing issue. With this, we're just going to touch base. I'm not sure when you guys are going to watch this video. Maybe we already looked deeply into the situation there. If we didn't, don't worry, we're going to really dive into what's going on. So the cause was the limited resources, jobs, and education and healthcare. This led to the cycle of poverty. So the poverty problem escalated by unstable government, overspending military, and underspending on the people, the human capital. Because they wanted to escape the cycle of poverty, a lot of people actually left the region of Latin America and decided to go to a new place. They immigrated to new place. For example, United States is a big place where Latin American people migrate to. The one of the biggest reason for this is the war on drugs, and we're going to talk about this. Countries in South America, especially the Andean region, Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru, where there's mountains, easy to hide, and a lot of plants actually grow in this region, is a major area for farming, manufacturing, and trafficking illegal drug like cocaine. So to escape like poverty in the region, a lot of small farmer unfortunately decides to sell cocaine. They grow cocoa plants and meet somebody else so that they can basically make it into cocaine. So a lot of these illegal drugs are made in this region. Let me show you. This region right here, Brazil, right next to Brazil. So we got Colombia all the way down, down, down. Very rich with nutritional, element, arable land. You can literally grow anything in those lands. So the U.S. government attempt to stop illegal drugs manufacturing and trafficking by going after the supplier in the Andean region. So the cartel is the biggest problem when it comes to this because cartel took over the illegal drug trade. And in a lot of places, cartel might even be more powerful than the government. So the drug cartel are often very violent and attack anyone who gets in the way. So you would even see a lot of people like cartel. People are trying to stop the cartel, but the cartel will end up killing their whole family. And that's a whole thing with fear. You don't want to hurt your family. You don't want to get hurt. So people are governed by fear, which is the biggest problem. That's actually it. That's actually it. I hope you guys do well. Watch it twice, three times. I think I made this video very short. Good luck on the test, and I'll see you again.